Good morning, students. Hope you enjoyed your 3 day weekend, the last 3 day weekend of the school year. We've got what, about 12 days of school left? 3 days this week, 5 days next week, and then finals week, which is always kind of strange. And so you already anticipate that strangeness going into every finals week of the semester. And this one won't be any different, except the finals you'll be taking at home. We will not have a traditional final for our class. Stay tuned for more information on it. So, what are we doing this week? As usual, for maybe, 10 of you that are participating in getting the extra points for writing down your weekly agendas for all your classes, that's due Friday as usual. There's this one and then the next one left. And also due this Friday is the epilogue, the last part, the conclusion of your research project. So let's talk about that. The research project, was originally due, I think, last week, but we moved it to this week. And as you can see here, I've moved it over to next Wednesday so that you have yet another weekend to work on it, if in fact you would like to work on it for another weekend. So, what do we put inside the epilogue section of your research paper? I am so glad you asked that question because I happen to have, bam, another checklist. Feels good to have these things ready because I know my students need them, because I wish I had this when I started writing research papers. The whole rationale behind us writing a research paper in high school is because when you get to college, as we talked about at the beginning of the semester and at the beginning of the school year, you're going to write research papers in all your classes. So we got to be ready for that. No one ever said, gosh, I wish I wasn't ready for this project. Gosh, I wish I wasn't ready for this concept. Gosh, I wish I had less training to do something like this. No one ever says that. Why? Because they had training. Sometimes that training is difficult and challenging, and I know that this project is both difficult and challenging, especially when we're separated because of the stay-at-home precautions. That doesn't mean you can't succeed in it. So let's take a look at what goes in an epilogue. First, let's look at the word epilogue itself. I'm going to highlight this with blue because blue is a wonderful color. Epilogue. It means what comes at the end. Epi is a root word for after. Pro is a root word for before. Before a lot of books, there's what's called a prologue, which is information that you need prior to the story starting. And in a lot of books, like in papers, like in articles, like in movies sometimes, like in television series, sometimes there's an epilogue. You know that sometimes for television programs, if the season has 20 episodes, for example, everything will get resolved before the 20th episode of that season is done. And then there's still a lot of episodes left. And so they kind of set up the next season, right? They close out the current season and then they move on. Same thing with this paper. You're going to close out your research, but before you move on, there's a few things to do. So, first, we start with a proper heading, epilogue, right? And by the way, log means writing. So, what is written after? That's the shortened version of that. But for our purposes, epi is after, and log is what is something written, right? A prologue is written before, an epilogue is written after. So make sure you explain clearly the different positions regarding your topic, and then a series of questions to answer. First, make references to any of the predictions and plans that you presented in the abstract. What did you think you would find before researching versus what you actually found? So in your abstract, part of the things that you were, or one of the things that you were supposed to do was predict what you thought you would find prior to your research. So compare that. What did you think you were going to find? But what did you actually find? Maybe it agreed with what you thought, or maybe it disagreed with what you thought. This is a reflection question. The best part of learning is when we reflect backward on what we did and we try to extract some meaning and value from it. So, the next one, make sure you cite research that establishes and defends your position. What were the major positions on this subject, right? What were the major areas? For example, if you were doing it on aliens, one position is aliens exist and they're after us and we got to be careful. Another position is aliens may exist, but they're probably not here. Another position could be no aliens exist. Another position could be that aliens are our ancestors or whatnot. Whatever the positions are, make sure you establish what that is based off what you found. Then discuss the reasons for the controversy. Why do people's positions on this topic keep disagreeing? Why do the alien people not have one alien idea, for example, right? Why is there controversy? Controversy means positions that are contradictory to each other. Then, conclusions and the consequences that you're drawing from this research. My favorite part, what I like to call the so what. So, what does this all mean? Why does any of it matter? This is crucial. Always ask yourself that. That's not an English question. It's not a math question. It's not a science question. It's a question for humanity. Whenever we are learning something, whenever we are reading, whenever we are producing, creating, so what does this mean? What does this matter? This is a good habit to get into. So I recommend that you always ask, so what, right? So we did a research project for an entire semester. So what? Well, sometimes the so what is a really difficult question to answer because for this purpose of doing a research project for an entire semester, once you get into college, that so what will change. When you're doing your first few college research papers and you see your college classmates, in some cases, struggling to figure out how to write a research paper, and you have this knowledge already, right? Because you sacrificed part of 11th grade in doing this project, the so what of this project will change. Because as you reflect backward, again, that word reflection, as you reflect backward, you'll be thinking, gosh, I didn't necessarily want to do this project. I didn't necessarily like doing this project, but I'm so glad that I did do it because I have a background in doing these kinds of research projects. So what? Always ask that question. Then, recommendations for further study on this topic. So answer this. If someone were to continue the research that you did, right? This research, whatever you looked for in your topic, what else should they look for? If they had unlimited time and resources, right? It didn't end at the end of the semester and you had all the money you needed. What else should they do to discover more about this subject, right? What else should we do to discover more about aliens, right? Should we send up more probes in space? Should we look at different signals that could be coming in? What do you think, based off of your research, could be done to add to this discussion? You are now part of the discussion on your subject. What else can be done to add to that discussion that you made yourself a part of? Part of research always is joining an existing conversation. You have been born into a world that has been talking about a lot of different subjects for a long time, and it has been waiting for you to add your voice to that subject. Add it here. All right, final sentence. I have this thing for final sentences. We talked about it first semester when you were writing your book. I like to call it the dot 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 moment, the Smokey the Bear moment. You've seen the Smokey the Bear commercials where there's somebody trying to make a campfire. Smokey the Bear comes out of the wilderness, looks at them and makes them feel guilty about making campfires and says, only you. He used to say only you can prevent forest fires, but now as soon as you see Smokey the Bear and he shows up and says only you know what comes next. And that is preventing forest fires. Smokey the Bear drops the mic, goes back in the wilderness, and we know what we're supposed to do, which is not make forest fires so we don't burn things down. This is your moment to drop the mic like Smokey the Bear at the end of your paragraph, at the end of your section, at the end of your essay, at the end of everything you write. Create a dot 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 moment, right? An ellipsis moment. A final sentence or two designed to encapsulate, which means bring everything you've done, boom, into one thing, right? Encapsulate the breadth of your work. You made a series of broad studies, right? Bring that all together, encapsulate it, and say what it means, potentially, what it could signify, why it's important, what else we should think about. You might want to leave us with a question. You might want to leave us with an ellipsis. Here's where punctuation comes in. You learned about all these great punctuation marks in the first semester when you wrote your book. Leave us with that. And then, of course, the typical ones. Make sure you had a topic sentence. Make sure you had closing sentences. In this case, this is the major closing sentence. Did you make some transitions? Did you make two spaces between sentences? All the basic stuff, right? Did you stop using little words like this because you are more than little people? And then what do you think was strongest and what do you think was weakest? And if you think that this was really strong, then make sure that you write more sentences that are like this instead of more sentences that are like that. All right, so that's that for what is due Friday. Let's give out some shout outs from last week. Over here, we've got 6 students who participated here. Thank you, MD. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Thais. And thank you, Christian. That's second period. Let's see what fifth period did. Gonna find out in a second. Oh, 2 people. Thank you very much, David. And thank you very much, Gabriela. Another thing, as Apple always does, there's one more thing, and that is this. This is an email that was sent to me this morning by the superintendent of our school district, right? And apparently, LAUSD has partnered with Snap and these amazing celebrities that I think you all know to create a book club for the low, low price of free. So this is the video, which you can't see anything, right? But I'm going to post it so that you can watch it. It's only 2 minutes long because they know how to get things out of the way quicker than I do, because this one is longer than 2 minutes. I think we're at 13 minutes now. So hopefully some of you are still listening to this. Maybe that's why so few of you like my posts. But I'll add that and include it. If you have any questions, please let me know. We have a short week this week, so this is going to be the only update that I'll post. Please stay safe. Please stay healthy. Please stay creative. As usual, please hit like so that I know you saw this update. Take care, y'all.